the accusation that changed everything. Imagine waking up one morning to find your entire life turned upside down by a single accusation. That's exactly what happened to Ellie, a young woman who had sacrificed everything to care for her sick mother, until the day she was accused of something she didn't do. Ellie's story is one of betrayal, resilience, and a shocking twist that would reveal a truth buried for years. Stay with us to discover how an innocent maid turned the tables on her powerful employer, and how this life-changing secret came to light. If you enjoy stories about unexpected turns and the strength of the human spirit, make sure to subscribe for more content that will keep you hooked. Every day, Ellie rose before dawn, waking to the low hum of New York City as it slowly came to life. Her workday began early at the McCain mansion, a grand home that stood in stark contrast to her modest world. For Ellie, her job as a maid was more than just work. It was the lifeline for herself and her mother. Her income paid for her mother's medication and their tiny apartment, leaving little for anything else. Still, Ellie accepted her lot in life, moving through the halls of the McCain home as if she were invisible, blending into the background while scrubbing, polishing, and cleaning. The McCains, Gabriel and Eleanor, were a powerful couple. Gabriel, the quiet, stern businessman, rarely acknowledged Ellie beyond the occasional nod. But something in his gaze sometimes lingered on her, as if he were trying to place her from a long-forgotten memory. Eleanor, on the other hand, was coldly calculating, making sure everyone knew she was in charge. She rarely spoke to Ellie directly, except to issue orders, her tone and manner keeping Ellie firmly reminded of her place. On one particular morning, Ellie arrived at the mansion to find the atmosphere unusually tense. The staff were whispering, moving quickly, and avoiding Eleanor's gaze as she walked through the halls with a furious expression. Word spread that something of Eleanor's had been taken, a diamond necklace that she often flaunted at high society events. The whispers grew louder as Ellie continued her work in the dining room. "Mrs. McCain's necklace is gone," someone murmured. "The diamond one. Eleanor's prized possession, the one she wore at every important occasion." Ellie's heart sank at the thought of what this meant. Eleanor wasn't one to let things slide, and she would want answers. And she did. Ellie was barely done cleaning when she heard Eleanor's voice echoing down the hall. "Ellie!" The sound of her name, laced with accusation, froze her in place. Ellie turned, her heart hammering in her chest. "Where were you this morning?" Eleanor's gaze was icy, her stance confrontational. "Caught off guard," Ellie managed. I was downstairs, Mrs. McCain. I haven't touched anything, I swear." But Eleanor's expression didn't change. She looked at Ellie as if she had already decided her guilt. "Enough lies," she hissed, her voice hard as steel. The other staff members quickly looked away, and Ellie felt the sting of isolation and vulnerability. She knew her words wouldn't matter. Eleanor had made up her mind, and it didn't seem like anything Ellie said would change it. Gabriel entered the room, observing the scene in silence, his expression unreadable. He didn't step in to defend her, didn't ask for proof. His presence was no comfort, and Ellie's heart sank. "This woman," Eleanor continued, gesturing at Ellie with disgust, "has stolen from me. My necklace, the one my husband gave me as a wedding gift, is gone, and she is the only one who would have had the audacity to take it." The words hit Ellie like a punch. She felt lightheaded, her knees weak with the weight of Eleanor's accusation. "I would never steal," she began, her voice trembling, but Eleanor wasn't listening. "Get out! I don't want to see your face in this house again." Ellie glanced at Gabriel, a flicker of desperation in her eyes, but Gabriel's gaze remained cold and distant. He simply looked at her, as if waiting for her to leave. It was clear her pleas were useless. Have you ever been in a moment like this, where everything you've worked for is at risk? Comment below if you know that feeling of helplessness when no one believes you. Ellie had no choice but to gather her few belongings and walk out, her head spinning. Her job, her mother's care, their apartment, all depended on the paycheck she earned from the McCains. Without it, she couldn't begin to imagine how they would survive. She felt numb, lost, unsure of what to do next. As she reached the street, a memory came back to her, something her mother, Emily, had once shared. Ellie remembered her mother telling her of a man she had loved long ago, a man she'd never mentioned by name until recently, Gabriel. Could it be the same Gabriel, the man she had been working for all these years? Her hands trembled as she considered the possibility. It was a wild thought, Yet the pieces started fitting together in her mind. She had to know the truth. Ellie turned and walked back to the mansion, her heart pounding with anticipation and dread. She found Gabriel in his study, staring at some papers on his desk. She walked in quietly, closing the door behind her. "Mr. McCain," she began, her voice low but steady. "There's something you need to know. I didn't steal your wife's necklace, but I think you're my father." Gabriel's eyes widened, his face going pale as the words sunk in. "What did you say?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Ellie took a deep breath, pulling out a worn letter she'd kept since her mother had shown it to her, one she hadn't understood until now. "My mother, Emily, told me about you. She told me that she loved a man once, a man named Gabriel, who left before he knew I existed." The room was silent as Gabriel read the letter, his expression softening, his face a mix of shock and regret. When he looked up at her, there was a sadness in his eyes that Ellie hadn't expected. "Emily," he murmured, "if I had known, I would never have left her. I never knew I had a daughter." But before Ellie could respond, the study door burst open, and Eleanor stormed in. "What is she doing here?" she demanded, her voice sharp and laced with contempt. Gabriel straightened, his gaze hardening as he looked at Eleanor. "Eleanor, there's something you need to know," he said, his tone firm. Ellie is my daughter." Eleanor's face twisted with disbelief, then fury. "This is absurd. You'd believe anything to protect her, wouldn't you?" she spat. "She's nothing but a liar and a thief." "Enough, Eleanor," Gabriel replied, his voice steady. "I know the truth now, and I won't deny her." Eleanor looked between them, a look of pure hatred crossing her face. "If you want her in this house, Gabriel, then you won't have me," she said coldly. And with that, she turned and walked out of the room, her footsteps echoing down the hall. From that moment on, Gabriel worked to make up for the years he had missed. He ensured Ellie and her mother had financial stability, and he began to make efforts to know Ellie as his daughter. For the first time, Ellie found herself able to think of a future beyond just survival, a future where she had choices. What do you think? Should Gabriel have taken Ellie's side sooner, or was this the right time for the truth to come out? Share your thoughts below. As the days passed, Ellie began to build a new life with Gabriel's support, and the weight of her past struggles began to lift. She found herself able to dream again, to imagine a life where she could do more than just survive. One sunny afternoon, Gabriel invited Ellie and her mother to the mansion for a quiet gathering. They shared memories, laughed, and toasted to a new beginning. For the first time, Ellie felt a sense of belonging, a feeling that perhaps, despite everything, she had finally found her place in the world. The mansion, once a place that only highlighted the vast gap between them, now felt like home. They clinked glasses, smiling at the possibilities that lay ahead. Thank you for following Ellie's journey. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more heart-stirring stories of resilience, and share your own stories in the comments below.